Hey y'all, this is Enzo from Knox Knife Mods, and today we are checking out the Spyderco Spidey Chef. So we did this one way back for the first episode of Takedown Talk, but I thought we'd revisit it and do some cool stuff. We're going to do some modding, and we're going to get pretty wild with it, guys. So if you'd like to check it out, please stay tuned, and let's dive into it. All right, y'all, the Spyderco Spidey Chef. What an awesome knife. This is a fantastic design from Marcin Swish. I'm sure y'all are very familiar. It's been out in the wild for quite a bit here, and it's really had some staying power. It's just such a cool design. I first heard about it through Nick Shabazz, and at the time, this was way back, this was several years ago. He was, of course, a big Swish buoy fan, and he kind of was basically saying that the Chef was just not as cool as the buoy, and if you had the money, go for the buoy. This is back when you could get the buoy. You can't really get it now. I then watched Cedric and Ada fall in love with this knife, and I got it basically at the same time that he got it. So it was kind of cool because he's my favorite YouTuber, and I got to sit and kind of watch him enjoy the knife at the same time I was enjoying it for all the same reasons. So that was pretty fun. As you can see, I've already done a little bit of modding to this. I did a bit of a Scotch-Brite finish on the handle and stone washed it. And I got new hardware and a custom clip from Rip's Garage Tech with this really cool double helix pattern on there. I think that looks really neat, and it matches the back spacers and, or not back spacers, the standoffs and the lanyard tube in its finish. But yeah, it looks really cool. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take this thing down, clean it up, it needs it, and we are going to get a little wild with this blade. What I'm thinking, guys, we're gonna get rid of the hump. We're gonna get rid of that hump, and we're gonna give it a very aggressive point. I think that it's gonna look really awesome with this very angular handle shape. I've always found it kind of odd that the blade has kind of this strange swoop and then a camel hump. So we're gonna get rid of that. We're going to do a rock carved pattern on the spine, and I think we're going to do a layered abyss wash, a layered acid wash on the blade. I'm very excited to see how this takes. I'm very curious to see how long it takes to acid wash that LC200 in because, of course, it is a very stainless steel, so it may be a long while in the acid wash there. But let's get into it. I think that we're going to need primarily a T8 with my new hardware here. I'm pretty sure it's all T8, if I recall. I believe that hardware, get a sip of coffee here. I believe that hardware came from Blades We Love, I'm pretty sure, on eBay. All right, let's get that handle scale off. Oop, there goes our stop pin. Put that here. There we go. Oh yeah, this thing is dirty. Holy cow. Good gosh. All right, let's see. We have a bronze. Let's get that screwdriver out of the way. Bronze washer, lanyard tube. Put that over here. And then on this side, yeah, we have another washer. There we go. Our pivot, get that out of there. Good grief, look at this guy. This thing. Yeah, this thing needed to be cleaned. Holy cow. All right, we'll put that over there with the pivot screw. Body screws will all go right here. Lanyard tube, stop pin, washers. Whoa! Yeah, actually, you know, it's not a whole lot of parts on this thing. All right, let's take the pocket clip out. I'll let y'all have a closer look at this cool pocket clip. Yeah, so this pocket clip fits right down into the slot there for the original wire clip. I'm not a wire clip fan. I like milled clips, and I think this angular, funky design really goes with, of course, the angular nature and the design of the knife. So that's the pocket clip there. Let me move that, put that clip screw next to the clip, and then let's see if I can take these remaining pieces out just so it's fully disassembled. All right, and that's it, guys. That's fast, huh? God, I love working on frame locks because it's just so simple. All right, let's tidy this up here. Got our two handle scales. I'm not sure if I'm going to try to do anything to these scales. John Phillips from Primo, he gave me a tip on brass washing. He basically said to, when you do your brass wash, put a little splash of ferric chloride in there and it'll make the brass adhere much better. I don't know that would apply with titanium, because with titanium it's so much harder than steel and brass that it still may not do it. I tried a brass wash on these once and the brass just came right off. So I'll probably just leave these alone, or I may do a longer stone wash to make that stone wash more apparent. I think I might do that. We'll try that, do a longer stone wash. But yeah, so that's it. Those are the handle scales. Our blade, our LC200N blade, let you have a close look at that and how much it needs to be cleaned up. Good grief. Wonderful steel though, super stainless. Our pocket clip, there we go. I'm gonna run through all of this again in a minute, so I may as well just kind of tidy it up first and then tell y'all all about it. Okay, so here's our exploded view of the Spyderco Spidey Chef. We have a pivot screw, the pivot itself, 2 phosphor bronze washers. That is the screw, that's the filler screw for the left side carry, for the pocket clip. We have 6 body screws, 3 standoffs, a lanyard tube, a stop pin, stop bar, whatever you want to call it, clip screw, our custom clip here, again from Rip's Garage Tech. He's got a few options if you want to check him out. LC200N blade, wonderful steel. I love that steel. 2 titanium scales, and that's it, guys. This is a very straightforward build with it being a frame lock. Yeah, so just all these parts. Now, let's get into it. We are going to take this blade and we are going to get rid of that hump there, and we're going to do a layered acid wash, and then we're also going to rock carve the spine. So the Dremel work's coming first. Let's do that first. First things first though, I want to kind of give myself a guide here on how I want to approach this, on getting rid of that that hump. So let's kind of sketch it out. Even if it comes out a little bit angular, I will be okay with that. Although I would prefer it to be a little bit more leaf shaped. Yeah, that's about where that upward slope begins. So I think that makes the most sense. And I've got it, yeah, right about the same spot on both sides. All right, cool. Let's get to it. It's gonna be something. Yeah, so I'll be using the Dremel to do that. And yeah, should go well. Let's do it. So this was my first mistake, not really thinking this through, and for some reason I assumed that the Dremel would be the right tool for this. Obviously not, and we're going to get to more on that later, but I just wanted to come right off the bat and say, if you're thinking about doing some reprofiling, the Dremel is not your solution. So this is my standard acid wash setup, just coating the contact surfaces, and then my acid is a 1-to-1 mixture of ferric chloride and water. The effects on the LC200N are wild, and we're going to see that in just a second. As we can see here, there's this extreme horizontal banding that's going on. I'm not a metallurgist, so anybody that has insight on that, feel free to let me know why it etched this way. I've never had this happen before. Okay guys, we're back again. It's been actually a few months since I did all this work that you just saw. I wasn't super happy with how the blade turned out, like the profile and everything. I want to kind of adjust that, so that's what we're going to do. I had to just take some time away from it because I want to do justice on this knife. I do really like how the acid wash turned out. It's kind of crazy, but I think we're going to do some work here, and I'm going to try to straighten out that curve a bit and make the drop look more piercy rather than kind of a slow slope. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to hop on this blade first, and yeah, let's do it. So this time around, I decided to focus on angles, as the knife design itself is already, especially in the handle, very angle focused. And instead of having that slope, as I mentioned before, I decided to make two primary angles on the spine of the knife. And we're going to use the work sharp to do that. Now, one thing about the work sharp that people don't often talk about is the fact that you have a platen on the back side of it. And so you can do a lot of serious hogging off of metal on the back side of the thing. So that's what I'm doing here, and this went much better. We're not going to work our way through the grit, since this is going to be it's going to be going in the acid again. So no need for a high polish finish here. We're just going to get that initial grind done and then put it into the acid, and we'll be all set. And here's the newly finished profile. I think it looks 10 times better. I think it looks so much better. As you can see, that spine is raw, so we're going to run this through the acid again, resharpen, and we'll be all set.
5 minutes later.
Final modding step here was to stone wash the handle scales. No acid on these because it won't really affect titanium. So these went straight into my tumbler with some Harbor Freight ceramic media, and then I finished them up with a rub on a red Scotch-Brite pad. I think they turned out really nice. All right, y'all, what a trip it has been with this knife. Really pleased with how the reprofiling came out. I think that spine looks awesome. It's almost like I don't even know how to describe it, but I love that straight shot down to the point. I've always been a big fan of that, and it really fits in with that armor piercer kind of vibe that I was going for. And I think it kind of fits in with this aesthetic of like FF16, if you guys have played that game. It's been an inspiration for a couple mods for me now, and it continues on with this. So let's get this thing put back together. Shouldn't take but a second. One thing I want to do before we really get started though is to get some graphite on the lock face. This is one of those things that with the Spidey Chef, since it's just titanium lock face on stainless steel, it galls really bad. So you've got to, a lot of people say you can use a Sharpie, and you can, but I find that the Sharpie wears off really fast, and the graphite, for whatever reason, seems to last longer. So I'm going to get some graphite on here, and on the lock face here, and that should do it. Let's see. But really pleased with how this turned out. I can't wait to see this thing put back together. And it's been a journey with this one. I love it when I go to mod a knife, and I kind of question my decisions on it, and then I sit on it for a while, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to finish this job. And yeah, this one turned out awesome. I'm very pleased, and I think the new profile is going to really suit the aesthetic, because of course the T9 here, by the way, I noticed on this run around that this T9 bit seems to fit these screws a bit better than the T8. So anyway, I feel like this aesthetic really fits the Spidey Chef, as well as the intended purpose of the mod. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 there. So I'm pretty stoked on it. Feels good, there's no play. Spidey flicking it feels better there too. Oh, dude. This thing looks nuts. Well, guys, that is the... What is this? This is probably Takedown Talk 13 or 14, who knows. We'll know when I post it. But that is the Spidey Chef. Once again, I got to come up with a mod name. Of course, it's going to be something referential to FF16. I'll have to think of something. Shouldn't be too hard, but God, that thing looks crazy. Good grief. I mentioned in the last Takedown Talk that one thing I like to do these days to really kind of further commit to the theme of a mod is to make a lanyard for it. And this is one of my favorite ones to make. This is what I call a spellcaster lanyard, and it's basically just 550 paracord in a color that goes with the knife, along with a D20 that I've drilled through. So it's kind of nerdy, I know, but there's something about it that just makes me happy. So we're going to add a spellcaster to this Spidey Chef mod, to the armor piercer. The D20 I've chose happens to be glow in the dark, so that's kind of a fun touch. And let me know of the 3 paracords we saw earlier what y'all think, but ultimately I went with this one that's kind of a, not digicam, but it's kind of got some kind of camo pattern. Not that that has anything to do with the ultimate theme of the mod, but I think it just looks really good with this knife. So we'll get into putting that lanyard together. I did it using a snake knot, one of the easiest knots you can do for making paracord lanyards, and we'll see how that builds out here. All right, y'all. Closing thoughts on the Spyderco Spidey Chef Armor Piercer mod. Man, this thing is awesome. Now, I hope you guys will roll with me because my hands are probably going to get cold. As my Nana would say, it's colder than a well digger's butt in Idaho out here. But this thing turned out awesome. I love how aggressive the stance of it is now. Look at that. I mean, it looks like a race car. I think the handle really rolls into this new blade shape well, and it just has a much stronger presence now thanks to that new blade shape. So this mod was inspired by Final Fantasy 16, one of my favorite games that came out in recent memory. Really love that game, and there is a number of really cool weapon designs in that game, none of which in particular inspired this, but just the general design of some of the things that were in that game, I thought, kind of lended itself to modding this into something. Because this already has an incredible design from Marcin Swish, I never know how to pronounce that name, who also designed the Swish buoy, the Spidey Chef, and I believe he also designed the Techno. However, this knife is just awesome. Out of the box, it's just great. What we have here, of course, is LC200 in steel. Incredible stainless steel. Now the edge retention on it is not amazing, but the pure stainlessness of it at the time was a real wow factor. Now that's since been eclipsed by things like Van X and MagnaCut, but still, it's an awesome steel. It's cool. Handle is titanium. The lock is a frame lock. We'll go ahead and take a look at that engagement real quick because it is very late, and it's always been late on this knife. Even aside from acid washing it, it's always had a late lockup, but it feels good. Now the disengagement is a little stiff, and again, always has been with this one. Just a very tight disengagement. I find that out of all my frame locks, this is the one that I am most often applying graphite to get it to unlock smoothly. Anything else I want to touch on here? We'll talk about centering real quick. As you can see, the centering is off, which I think is a result of my modding. All right, so disregard that statement. After recording the video, I kind of revisited the centering, and it seems that it just needed to break in again after all of this modding, because once the action had fully broken in, I was able to center it with really no negative consequences. So blade is centered. Let's talk a little bit more about that action though. So if we decide to fire it quickly with the thumb, super nice. With the middle finger, now again, it's cold guys, so roll with me here. I may misfire, but oh yeah, middle finger's really nice too. What I've found that is following the acid wash, the detent is it seems like the detent ball is locking in a little bit better. So the detent is a little bit harder, which feels really good on this knife. So I'm happy with that. On the subject of that acid wash, as you can see, it is intense. It is definitely pretty wild. And I found that it's a love it or hate it thing. Now, Walsh loved it. I had sent a picture of the knife in a local group, and I think Walsh was the only one that loved it as much as I did. I think a lot of other people were like, dude, that's ugly. I like weird, funky stuff. Walsh likes weird, funky stuff. So I feel like we were both like, whoa, that looks so cool. So you tell me in the comments, guys, love it or hate it. Feel free to let me know. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I dig it. I think it's super cool, super, super stylistic and weird. The other modded feature here, the handle scales, I wouldn't say I modded them, but I did kind of refinish them. So I did a stone wash, which by itself, the stone wash did not look perfect. So I followed the stone wash up with a Scotch-Brite finish, and I think that is what made the magic happen. Now this stone wash looks really fantastic. So mental notes there for next time I stone wash titanium. I'm going to try that approach. We also have this pocket clip that came from Rip's Garage Tech. Now it makes the carry quite a bit shallower. However, I think that stylistically it really fits the aesthetic of the knife, the angles and the bevels and everything. It looks like this pocket clip should come with this knife. As you can see, there's been kind of a DNA helix strand thing applied to that pocket clip, which that kind of fits in with the theme being Final Fantasy 16 inspired. The main character Clive, as he progresses in his story arc, you find that he's much more than just a regular human being. And so I feel like that kind of ties well into that concept. Let's see, the other modded features here, these the hardware is aftermarket. I can't remember if I talked about that in the disassembly, but this aftermarket hardware comes from Blades We Love on eBay. So this is bronze titanium. I think it looks really good. I've always been a fan of kind of gold on gray, and I think that that color scheme looks really nice. The lanyard, of course, is from me. This is a spellcaster lanyard with a 20-sided die. Really cool particular die here. This one's glow in the dark. But even aside from that, I think the color, again, this kind of sort of off-white tannish color kind of fits well with both the lanyard and the color scheme of the hardware and the knife itself. So really loving that spellcaster on there. I think it looks super good. Yeah, I think that's all the modded features. The blade, of course, obviously, we've completely reshaped the blade. And let's take a closer look at that tip. Oh my goodness, y'all. That tip is mean. That's probably my favorite thing about the way this has modded. That tip just looks so cool. And again, with it being an armor piercer kind of idea, that's what I was going for. I wanted the blade to look like something that could slip into or between like plates of armor. And I think that really nails the look. The one thing that I wanted to do that did not work out was the armor piercer dagger that you may have seen. If you have a book on historical knives or weapons or something, you may have seen an armor piercer. They have a rondelle kind of thing going on where they kind of spiral. And I wanted to try to do that with a Dremel on the spine, and I attempted it, and it just did not work. It looked terrible. Now, somebody that could have probably done that would have been Nathan's Knives. He is a master with the Dremel. However, I just don't have the skills. So I decided instead to focus simply on the tip and these main two angles here. And I think it came out awesome. I love it. And also, too, I find that these flat angles fit, again, they fit the aesthetic better. If you look at the handle's very flat and very beveled. So I think it works well. Talking more about the handle, as we can see, it is a flat handle. It's very, well, not very, but it's somewhat thin. However, it feels really good in the hand. The ergos on this knife are really nice, despite the handle being so flat. The other thing that I like is that you have these pinch sections. They're like little divots here that have been milled into the knife. So with it being a food-focused kind of design, it really lends itself to that chef handle position and those sort of culinary cuts that you would do with a kitchen knife. Also, the handle arcs away from the blade, so again, you can do rocking cuts quite easily. So if you're a chef and you want a little folder, again, this is not a big knife, so it would be for smaller tasks, but it would be a good one. It would be a fun one to use for sure. And as you can see in the kitchen, It can hold its own. The blade stock is not quite as thin as I would want for a kitchen-focused knife, but it'll do just fine. It can slice. Now with this acid finish, I am never going to use this in the kitchen because the finish is just so weird. I don't know, it's odd. So I'm probably never going to use this in the kitchen, but it could do it if you had the stock knife. For cardboard cutting, this thing did great. Slices right through the cardboard, no problem. That LC200N, however, will require sharpening sooner than some of your more modern super steels. All right, guys, I think that's about everything I wanted to cover. It's an awesome knife, the Spidey Chef. From the factory, it's really cool in and of itself. You don't have to mod it. It's an awesome knife out of the box. Just if you're crazy like me and you want to do something nuts, yeah, go for it. But from Spyderco, it is an excellent knife. It was cool to revisit this piece. This was, of course, the first Takedown Talk that I did on the channel, the Spidey Chef Takedown Talk 1. So if you want to see an overview of the knife as it comes from Spyderco, go check out Takedown Talk 1. But it's been a pleasure revisiting this knife and now really making it a Knox Knife Mod knife. That's been really cool. So guys, thank you so much for joining. I've been Enzo. This is Knox Knife Mods, and this has been the Armor Piercer. Peace, y'all.